Today we are back in Fergus for an exciting Irish road trip.
So, one of the most asked questions that we get is how do we manage to live in such a small van as a couple without killing each other?
So today we are going to give you our top tips to live and travel in a tiny van as a couple while we pack our van.
You'd be surprised how much you can actually fit in such a small van for two people living in it. Living in a van is not as easy as living in a house, and you have many different tasks, so our tip number one is to divide the tasks up equally so that you share the workload. And unfortunately for me, one of my tasks is emptying the toilet. You're never going to see Annie do that.
I've done it like twice in 2 years, so I mean I have done it.
Annie's first time emptying the toilet.
What's my first time?
Well, it was...
Second.
I'm going to say first.
No, in Asturias last year I did it once.
Oh,
it's bad when I can count.
It's bad when you can count. I don't know how many times I have done it. Hundreds.
Dividing the tasks to suit each person makes our life a little bit easier. So in our case, I have a very sensitive nose, while Shane can hardly smell anything, so he takes the task of emptying the toilet and also driving because I'm not a very confident driver. While Shane does the driving, I do the maps, I plan on our day, find the best park-ups, and also do the meal planning, and we take turns on the cooking and cleaning. This here is my favourite part of the van. This is where I come to have some me time and get away from Shane for a wee while. Which leads us to tip number 2, which is to have some dedicated time to yourself. Also, dividing tasks helps you have a little break, which is very important while living and travelling on the road. While I chill here in the back and read, talk to my friends, or just relax, Shane goes all the way to the front.
So while Annie enjoys her comforts at the back of the van, my place to have some me time is here in the front. This is where I spend most of the time in the van anyway because I'm doing all the driving. So when we get to park up, when Annie's doing her tasks, I'm chilling up here in the front.
In this van there's not much room for food, so we're just packing the essentials, which leads me to tip number 3, which is eat before you get hungry, because we can all get a little bit angry when our stomachs are empty, and this tip will save you a lot of arguments. So a tip to avoid getting hungry is to plan your meals and also pack loads of snacks that don't need to be cooked, and also look for the signs of when you're getting hungry, because sometimes you get hungry and you don't even notice. For me personally, I get quite snappy and Shane knows about it.
I 100% agree with that point. So it's probably true what Annie says, and everybody does get a little bit hangry, including myself. As Annie gets a little bit snappy, I probably get a little bit frustrated. So the cure for that is to plan out your meals, make sure you know what you're going to have in the van and not go without food, and then nobody will get hangry. So right now we are just packing up all our kind of safety equipment, like our tow rope, our jump leads. In the case of an emergency, when we break down, we can get towed or we can start the van again, because we do not want to have any more breakdowns in 2024. And that brings us on to our next point, which is if something like that does happen, because you're driving around in an old van, it probably is going to happen, just don't take it out on the person beside you, because it is not their fault. Like for example, when our starter motor went, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't Annie's fault, so there was no point getting frustrated or annoyed with the other person, and you kind of have to work as a team to get the job done. Like that time when the starter did go, me and Annie are now super qualified at putting in starters on a T25, because we can do it in under 5 minutes, because we got together, we worked on it, we knew what we were going to do, Annie knew her job, I knew my job, and with teamwork makes the dream work. We were fit to get it done, back on the road, and Fergus was fit to live again. So that is our tip number 4?
Yep.
Tip number 4 is to just don't get frustrated, work as a team, and don't take it out on the other person.
So, this is the driver.
Now this is the challenging bit. Trying to communicate to each other which way to go. Left, right, up, down.
Back a bit towards the top of the van, yeah, and then turn. Okay, and now in. Perfect. Okay, and now turn to the house. Can you? Perfect. Okay, that's it. What? Did you time that? Holy shit. We're good.
It's not in.
It is.
Yeah?
100%, I'm telling you.
And that is how you fit a starter in a T25.
Oh my god.
In like 20 seconds. Okay, go to the...
Van life can be full of frustrating situations. Like, for example, you could drive half an hour to get water, you get there and the tap is not working. You could find the most beautiful park up, you get there and it's full and you have to find somewhere else. So just remember that it's probably not the person beside you's fault, or even if it is, fighting is just going to be a waste of time and is going to make the situation way worse. So just work as a team, because teamwork makes the dream work.
So one of the main struggles of living in such a small van is trying to pack all your clothes into the wardrobe. Now the wardrobe in Fergus is absolutely tiny, and that is for 2 people, and we're trying to pack for all different types of activities and places to go to. So that leads us on to our next point, which is to include places and activities that the other person wants to see. So for example, you're not always just visiting one place that only one person wants to see, you're taking turns about. So one day you can go to the beach, the next day you can go to the mountains. It's all about compromise, and that just means that the other person is not getting bored or fed up of the trip, and it makes for a more enjoyable trip. So always include activities or places to see that the other person wants to do.
Communication while traveling in a van as a couple is essential for a successful trip. And that's something I feel that Shane and I are pretty good at, because as you know, we were long distance for 5 years, so literally it was the only thing we could do. Talk, talk and talk. So while you're traveling in a van, if there's anything that you feel is not quite right, or anything that you want to say, just don't hold it in and communicate it in a nice way to your partner to be able to talk things out and just save yourself an argument or a misunderstanding.
So now that the bed is made on Fergus, you can see that there is very little room, especially up at the front. There is no room to even swing a cat, and the 2 of us have to live in it. So that takes us on to our next point, which is kind of work together on the sleeping routines or whatever. So for me, I'm a morning person,
while I am such a night person. I'm a night owl.
She doesn't want to get up in the mornings whatsoever. So the way we do it, and we have been successful on living in the van for 2 years, is I would get up first, I would get dressed, get my bits and pieces, sometimes even have breakfast, and then I would go for a walk and leave Annie to herself in the van, and then she can get up, get dressed, put the bed away, so then there is eventually enough room for 2 of us, and we're not in each other's way, on top of each other, and I think that works for us.
Yeah, that works perfect, because when the bed's down, there's literally like just enough room for 1 person down there, and then by the time Shane comes back, or even he just jumps into the front if it's raining, the bed is away and the van is ready to start the day. That's how it works for us, and I think it's a pretty good plan.
I think so.
So our last tip is to try to keep your van as clean as possible, because we all know that living in a tiny van can be super messy very quick. And personally, when the van is messy, I'm in like a little worse mood, because I don't know, I just feel like when the van is cleaner, everybody's happier. So keep your van clean, keep your partner happy. So now that the van is all packed, we are ready to hit the road. Please leave down in the comments any tips or suggestions that you have for traveling in a van as a couple. And next week we'll catch you on the road, because our Irish road trip starts. So we'll see you then.